Yeah, we went to an early morning screening, and this group of really cute girls sat down in front of us, and when the previews like ended or whatever, like the one girl, it was in the reclining chair or whatever, and I saw both of her legs like go up in the air and then like split, and I was just like, oh, Pedro Pascal fan. So he's officially reached like that height where women are going to the movies and they're just putting their legs up as the movie starts. It's so crazy. Anyway, time for Watch Skip Plus. You ready? Here we go.
Yes.
Hey, you want to watch some TV or something?
Skip it. Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Nothing but foul language and toilet humor.
I'm disgusted and repulsed and I can't look away.
I need these things! I need these things! Tell me, do you want to go? We're stopping on the color line. Oh, no way, Jose. This just in, go to hell.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Hello, friends and listeners. Welcome to a new episode of Watch Skip Plus. We're a movie review podcast with a lifestyle twist. I always mush those words together, movie review. Our lifestyle twist. Our lifestyle twist is that afterwards we do a bonus review, a lifestyle review. It can be on anything, so please stick around for that. If you're here on YouTube, please follow, like, subscribe, feed us. As I said before, feed us our subscriptions. And if you're listening to us or watching us on Spotify, our home, thank you so much. Follow, like, subscribe, leave a review. Mike, how are you doing?
Doing awesome. Preparing for a big trip, going on an anniversary trip to Miami shortly after, going on a hike right after this. So we're going to have a fun Father's Day. Those of you who don't know, we are recording this on Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to everybody a week late.
Yes. Happy Father's Day to everyone, all the daddies out there.
All the big daddies.
All the big daddies. I'm excited for your trip. I really am. And actually, I was about to ask a stupid question. Are you bringing the kids? No, it's an anniversary. No kids. Okay. And hopefully no refrigerators will be harmed during your vacation.
Hopefully it'll be good.
Okay. So speaking of love and marriage and anniversaries, what is it that we are reviewing? We're reviewing a dragon-free movie this week.
We are reviewing Celine Song's Materialists.
I'm so excited. Celine Song. I can't wait for you to start discussing her because I think this is only her second movie and she's a huge talent. So let's do it. Let's dive below the line. Let's start with you. What do we have?
Let's get right into it. So let's talk about Celine Song. I was like, I'm turning into
Celine Dion.
Oh my God. Celine Song, writer and director. She was born in Korea, but she immigrated to Canada when she was 12. Her father, Song Moon-han, he's an independent filmmaker. Her mother's an illustrator and graphic artist. Before becoming a filmmaker, like you mentioned, her first movie only came out in 2023. She's been a playwright. Her first play, Endlings, premiered at the American Repertory Theater back in 2019. The off-Broadway run was unfortunately cut short in March 2020 due to the pandemic. In November 2020, also due to the pandemic, Song directed a live production of Chekhov's The Seagull using The Sims 4 on Twitch. And they did it for a New York theater workshop, and she called it The Seagull on The Sims 4.
That is brilliant, and I wish I had seen that.
A lot of people got creative during that time to try to get their art out there, so that's pretty awesome. Other plays include Tom and Eliza, which was named as a semifinalist for the American Playwriting Foundation. Also 2016's Relentless Award.
Oh wait, okay. I want to mention one other thing. That play, Tom and Eliza, is actually featured in this movie. It is the play that Chris Evans is doing off
Yep.
Broadway, and you actually see they're talking, and you see the poster that says Tom and Eliza, directed and written by Celine Song. So I kind of dug that.
She's been like awarded residences, fellowships, commissions. In 2021, Song finally wrote the screenplay for Past Lives, her first film. It was produced and funded by A24, and it got its premiere at Sundance in January 2023, where it was purchased by Sony Pictures Classic in a shared distribution rights with A24. Past Lives received lots of accolades. I know we talked about it in an episode for the Oscars. It included nominations for Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay at the 96th Academy Awards. Song was the first Asian woman to be nominated for the Academy Award for both original screenplay and the first Asian woman film director to be nominated in both Best Picture and Original Screenplay at the Academy Award. She worked the first season on Amazon's Wheel of Time. She also did a music video for pop artist Laffy, and The Materialists is her second film. So what do you think about what you've seen from her so far, from her two films?
Well, so Past Lives, we should mention that, I mean, it won a ton of awards, like with critics associations and film festivals everywhere. I mean, it was a bang up debut. I just think she's such a strong talent. When I look at Past Lives and her ability to write, I think about Ang Lee and how he uses narrative and visual storytelling to really convey emotions. Even when it comes to something like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where the martial arts are sort of a metaphor for emotions that we wrestle with or that we fight with or we fight against society. And so I don't know. I'm excited to talk about this. Who else do we have below the line?
Next up, we have cinematography done by Shabir Kirchner. Shabir Kirchner is actually pretty new into the world of cinematography. He's done a lot of shorts, and his Past Lives and this are their first films, it looks like. They also did a television series called Get Millie Black, which I have not heard of, and another television series called Small Axe. But it looks they've been...
That's the Steve McQueen.
Yep, the Steve McQueen
TV
miniseries.
It's like an anthology.
There. Yep, so looks like they've bit off a lot into the world of cinematography. It actually looks like the first film was called Bowl. So and this kind of being the first big films outside of the independent world. Then let's go on to the editor, Keith Fraze, I'm guessing is how you pronounce that, or Fraze, Fraase. Got started in the world of film doing camera and electrical department, but before becoming an editor, has worked, of course, with Celine Song in Past Lives. I don't know why I keep saying Celine Song. Celine Song. This is not the Titanic.
Celine, my heart will go on. Anyway.
Oh, geez. Keith's worked on Knight of Cups, To the Wonder, and The Tree of Life. So a lot of Malick in there. So a lot of...
Wow. Talk about editing, okay?
Yeah.
He deserves...
A lot of editing done in those films.
He deserves kudos just for whittling down Terrence Malick. Thank you.
Yes.
Keith.
Yeah, and has worked on the television show Severance, which also is fabulous editing. So you can tell that this editor really knows their stuff, working with both Malick and Celine Song, and has worked in a lot of other television and film work as well. So then we can move on to the music department and composer. The composer's name is Daniel Pemberton. He has done the Trial of Chicago 7, as well as the film Steve Jobs and The Counselor. He also did some work on the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse film. He's done about 150 different film and TV as a composer. So very much, this is his career, and he's been doing it for a very long time. So, but lots of TV,
lots of Steven Soderbergh films, and I love his score for The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which, kind of a guilty pleasure movie featuring the two acting black holes of Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer. Anyway,
his next film is Ari Aster's Eddington. So Western. About
I have such a love-hate relationship with serial production Baylor Joaquin Phoenix. But Pedro Pascal is in this too. So
Yeah, that's true. He seemed to found
Yeah.
his new muse with Ari Aster. They seem to really have worked well together. So let's move on to art director Anthony Gasparo. Anthony Gasparo has worked recently on Kinds of Kindness, but has been doing independent film forever, all the way back to being in the art department on Gummo, which is a Larry Clark classic if you're Tyler. For the rest of us, it's
Yes.
a film that's difficult for most of us to watch, but it is one of those films that many people love and know. Also worked on How to Lose Friends and Alienate People and the Sundance hit First Cow. They took a little bit of a break in the 2000s and started back into work, it looks like, in 2016 with Certain Woman, and working a lot of films in the independent circle. Actually, production designer on a film I saw at Sundance a long time ago called Off the Black, which actually has by James Ponsoldt, has a really cool role by Nick Nolte in that. So a lot of good work there by the production designer.
Yeah, actually, there's one other person I want to mention. This is produced by Killer Films. Killer Films was founded and owned by Christine Vachon. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Vachon. She is one of the pioneers of queer independent cinema as well as independent cinema. So in the 90s, she produced things like Poison and Swoon, Todd Haynes, also Kiss Me Guido, Office Killer, Velvet Goldmine. I believe she's also one of the producers on American Psycho. So I adore Killer Films. Anything that they've got their name on that Christine is behind, I'm really, really excited. And so when I saw that she was producing this, I was like, I'm sure we've got a winner. And speaking of winners, this essentially is I don't know, maybe triptych isn't the right word, but basically there's 3 leads. So it's kind of like Dead Calm, if you will, right? Sam Neill, Nicole Kidman, Billy Zane. And so our 3 are Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal. And I think that's all I need to say, because if you don't know who these people are, you probably should stop watching or listening to our podcast. Okay. But anyway, let's start with Dakota Johnson. She's actually been on our show because she is Madam Web, my favorite of all time. I love that movie. So Dakota Johnson, we all know her. Should we ban the term Nepo baby? Because I just think it's like so terrible. Anyway, it is what it is. Dakota Johnson is the daughter of Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith. And so, you know, she is an NB, if you will. And you say she has a very singular style of acting. In fact, some may call it non-acting. Actually, I think that's the vibe that kind of really follows her around, which I personally do not see. So even though she's got Madam Web on her resume, we should note that she has been a working actress in indie films and studio films. Many may remember her as Anastasia Steele from the movie adaptations of 50 Shades of Grey. I mean, you know, when you start with that, I mean, Oscars are coming your way, right? No. Anyway, that's a dig, but I love those movies, and I happen to think she's really great in those films. She's also been in a lot of rom-coms like How to Be Single, and there's another one that she was in that also featured Nick Braun. And so for a time I thought, are they dating? Like, what's happening? Why are they in movies together? But then she started to really dig into like her indie cred. And so she worked with Luca Guadagnino on A Bigger Splash. That was the second of the Love trilogy, meaning I Am Love, A Bigger Splash, and then Call Me by Your Name. The other Guadagnino film she was in was the remake of Suspiria. And quite honestly, she's really good in it, if only to watch that striking dancing she's doing. And then just, you know, it's great.
She has a great dancer body, even though she isn't really a trained dancer, I don't think, but she does look like a dancer.
Well, she she fooled the fuck out of me with Suspiria. So, okay. Bad Times at the El Royale, the Peanut Butter Falcon, Cha-Cha Real Smooth, which, you know, I think you saw, that was at Sundance, right?
Sundance,
Cha-Cha Real
yeah.
Smooth. And I think a lot of us had a lot of hopes for that movie and that filmmaker. And it, I mean, was it at Apple TV movie? Is that what happened?
Yeah, again, it was a big hit at Sundance. Apple TV picks it up, and then nobody talks about it.
And then nobody talked about it. Currently streaming Am I Okay? She's actually really, really great in that. She's coming out as a lesbian. Persuasion, Daddy-O. What's that?
Wasn't that done by Tig?
Yep, Tig Notaro. And then Daddy-O is also streaming. That came out. I think there was a lot of high hopes for that as well, because she co-starred with, I believe it was Sean Penn, right? Yeah.
Sean Penn in a taxi cab.
In a taxi cab, which, you know, I don't know. I think I'd rather watch Madam Web. Anyway, and so she's got this one, and then there's a movie called Splitsville. I don't know if that got released ever.
I don't know.
But she stars with Adria Arjona, and that was a big Cannes Film Festival hit. So Dakota Johnson, how do you feel about her? Again, she has a singular delivery. Are you a fan?
Well, I feel she delivers her lines like this all the time, and she's very natural when she acts. She's okay. She just literally has this one voice, and she talks like this in every film, no matter how serious or scared or worried or happy she is. There's an intensity with her.
I'm going to quote her in Madam Web. That does sound like me. Anyway,
I don't hate her, but I mean, she really fits this role. I don't hate her. I don't love her. I know some people despise her. I don't get the hate. She fits where she fits in, and
Yeah.
she fit. So
moving on to Chris Evans, America's butt. Wasn't that the line from Avengers or whatever? So I guess, was it Quentin Tarantino that said that, or Martin Scorsese that was like, people only go to the Marvel movies to see the character itself, and the actors are going to disappear behind the facade of whatever. And so that has come to fruition, folks, because anytime anybody says Chris Evans, we think Captain America. And so there's a part of me that thinks that this is his biggest release, if we want to call an indie like this, his biggest release since being in the Avengers and stuff like that. I mean, he did appear in
Knives Out was pretty big.
You know, Knives Out. We had The Gray Man and Ghosted. So he has been working, but you know, the Red One kind of, what a piece of shizat. Although I did kind of enjoy it, but like that was but yeah, I think this is his like big acting kind of thing, right? Not to say that you can't act in Red One, okay? But let me ask you this. Where did you first see Chris Evans, and where did he stand out in your head as, okay, this is somebody to watch? Can you remember what movie it was?
I mean, I do remember him in Fantastic Four. He was really fun as Johnny Storm in those originally.
Sure.
It's Captain America. He is who he is. Unfortunately, a lot of the other films he's done outside of that world in the pop sphere, like you've mentioned, have not been very good. So trying to pop up in more, you know, acting roles.
Adult fare. Yeah, sure. As usual, it's a loaded question, because where I first saw Chris Evans was in a really great thriller directed by David R. Ellis called Cellular back in 2004. And it was interesting because that had Kim Basinger, it had Jason Statham, and then it was like, who the fuck is Chris Evans? Right. And so, you know, New Line really kind of took a chance with him. And I think it was because of Not Another Teen Movie, which is also where I remember him from, because he had that great rip on the Varsity Blues whipped cream scene, where he comes out and he's got the whipped cream on there, and then as he's walking away, the banana's in his anus. So, you know, but then since then he was with Scarlett Johansson in The Perfect Score. He's really good in a film called London. I think he played like a drug addict or whatever. And so people, I think, don't give him credit beyond just the pretty face. And I'm really hoping that this movie, spoiler alert, is going to turn that around, because he's really good in it.
He's really
And
good in
then
this movie.
yeah, he's so good. And then speaking of so good and so good looking, I know, lady, when you opened your legs up at the movie theater, I was doing the same. Okay. But we come to Pedro Pascal. He is Chilean. He is a singing beer spokesman. He is everywhere. He is currently experiencing quite the pop culture moment.
Yeah.
He's basically the Jude Law of the 2020s. He's in everything, folks. He's in
Yeah.
Disney movies. He's in HBO zombie films, zombie moss films, or whatever, bacteria films. He's worked with Pedro Almodovar. I mean, just he's everywhere. Pedro Pascal, when you think of him and his humble beginnings from shows like Nikita and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, what works stand out to you when I mention Pedro's name?
Well, I see the meme of him and Nick Cage probably 5 times a day in social
Yes.
media from the what was that Nick Cage movie where he plays
The
himself?
massive weight of talent, or whatever it was called. The
Whatever
massive,
that was.
yeah.
But that meme, that film, he also was really awful, but also really kind of endearing in the Wonder Woman sequel.
Oh my God, so. Can I just say he was probably the best thing about that?
Probably
Like,
was. And he was
yeah,
campy
and
as hell.
no dig on Gal Gadot. I am such a huge fan, but yeah, that movie Wonder Woman 84 was kind of poopy. It's
I
called
liked it. I think it's a campy fun, similar to what Schumacher did with those Batman sequels. This felt like a Schumacher.
I know, but I don't.
It's so
That's not how I see my Wonder Woman. Okay, that's not how I see her. But Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is the film that we were talking about. But like, he's done these indies too. Like I remember him from Narcos, right?
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and then I think he propped up in like Homeland, and all of those things. The Great Wall. Do you remember that crazy fucking movie? Triple Frontier, If Beale Street Could Talk. So much cred. But like I said, he's just in everything. I think Freaky Tales. You saw that at the Sundance?
He's so good in that too.
Gladiator 2, which I don't know. I think he was miscast in it, but he's probably the best thing about Gladiator 2 because it was a shit show. It was so bad. Fuck that movie.
I never saw it. I never saw it.
Yeah, skip it. Don't. Okay, so then just a couple more people that I wanted to just talk about in this film. We also get Marin Ireland in this.
Yes.
Also another lots of indie cred, lots of horror indie cred. And I often conflate her with Taylor What's-Her-Face, the lead of Orange is the New Black, because they kind of look alike. And so
look alike.
Every time I would see Marin Ireland in a film, I would be like, damn, Orange is the New Black taught this lady skills. And then it was like, no, it's not her.
No, it's not her.
But she's in this. And then very briefly, you will also see Eddie Cahill, great TV actor that I just absolutely love. She walks by him in the beginning and I was like, Eddie. And of course, everybody was like, shut the fuck up, kid. Shut up. Anyway, Sawyer Spielberg is also briefly in this as well. He of the loins of the great Steven Spielberg. So anywho, that's we're banning the term NBs. They're NBs. Okay. So, let's start with you, actually. I'm really excited to talk to you about this because this is not our fare. If this was our job, we would certainly have multiple episodes reviewing movies, right? We love to get to this kind of fare, this adult fare dramas where there's no explosions, folks. There's no time portals. There's no superheroes. But let's start with you. What did you think about The Materialists? Or Materialists? There's no the.
Well, first off, I love that this is an old school adult drama romance. It is being marketed as a rom-com, which I think is a mistake. The cinema scores can be negative because people are expecting this to be a silly, fun rom-com. There are some jokes and there are some moments of levity, but it's not your traditional Katherine Heigl type of J-Lo rom-com, not in any way, shape, or form, which the marketing is kind of tricking folks into believing. So just first and foremost, know that you're going into a film that really is a character study and a thematic study on marriage and the transactional nature of marriage, especially those amongst the wealthy. And traditionally, marriage used to be something about dowries and bringing kingdoms together, marrying princes and princesses together to create, kingdoms. And so marriage has always throughout history, while it is sometimes about love, has traditionally been more about kind of a business prospect. Dakota Johnson's character is this matchmaker in New York, and we've seen movies about matchmakers before that are cutesy, and this is not that cutesy type of film. For her, it's all about the math. It's all about looking and judging people. And the thing I love about this is Dakota Johnson's not a good person. Like, her character in this is not a good person. She's selfish. She's judgy. She's arrogant. She's a little flighty. She even mentions a lot of those things herself in the film, that she's not really a good person. Because, again, we talk about rich versus poor, love versus marriage. You don't always need love to go along with marriage. Are we marrying for love, or are we marrying for, because we are a match? Again, lots of interesting themes that they dive into in this movie that I just ate up every second of. And again, there's themes in past lives. Celine Song just really knows how to deconstruct traditional romance films and give us something more to chew on. We're not given any traditional villains here. There's nobody that you absolutely hate, but there's nobody besides maybe Chris Evans that you really like. But you also understand that Chris Evans is 38 years old and he's a working actor who lives with 4 roommates. He's not really got his shit together. So it's while we like him, he is not that successful. He's still struggling in his life. And these people all come together in such a beautiful way. I mean, the way we all kind of have a meet cute together at a wedding, and we all kind of see these 3 come together, and you see her face when she sees Chris. And I think some of us give her crap, but this might be her best role next to Cha Cha Real Smooth. I just thought she really was so good in this. And maybe it's kind of who she is in real life, kind of a flighty, arrogant, judgy person. And maybe that's why she pulled this off so well.
Well, she was not doing herself any favors with those Madam Web interviews and just talking about stuff. But, I have to say, even as flighty as she kind of is, and possibly arrogant because of, maybe her upbringing or growing up with a, cinematic silver spoon in her mouth or what have you.
Yeah.
She gave an interview recently about how films, not specifically Marvel films, but maybe just based on her experience from Madam Web, films are now being made by committee, and there are studio executives who are just no, that's not how this should go. It should be this, for mass entertainment, for more profits, this kind of thing. And so she's kind of you can't make art that way. And so, but anywho, continue.
This film is pure art. You really said it. She got what she wanted. She made a film that is pure art, and this art is about dissecting and looking into relationships and what we do as humans. We also kind of talked about a little bit in Ugly Stepsister, though, the things that we do to ourselves to make ourselves valuable to others, to prepare ourselves to be able to be married, to find our match. And they talk about some pretty awful things that they do to their bodies, again, with a plastic surgery to up their value. It's all about value. It's all that whole value talk. It's interesting because I work in sales, and it's all about value prospects, and that's exactly what she's doing. She's trying to sell love and marriage, but she's doing a better job at selling the marriage portion of it, finding these perfect matches based off of religion, based off of socioeconomic things, and finding that perfect match based off of height and looks, and making sure that she can see that these people are going to be that business match. But like she says, marriages are a business, and sometimes they last a long time, and other times they split and go their own way. And she's very harsh and cold about that. So I just really did love the heck out of this movie. I know that the ending, I know our buddy John and I were talking about it, and he did not like the ending. He felt, I will go into that more in spoilers, but he felt like the ending was very fairy tale like, which I think we'll talk more.
So I have 2 questions, and then I'll get to my spoiler-free thoughts on the film. One, we talk about inciting incidents or whatever, screenplay, film school, blah, blah, blah. Throw the rules out, folks, make a movie. But there's a second inciting incident, and it's a very, very serious turn. How did you react? Because it's weird. When I looked on IMDb, it said rom-com, but first of all, address that whole like rom-com thing, especially considering that it takes a very, very serious turn, and that changes everything. What did you think about that? How'd you feel about that in the screenplay?
It needed to happen. It was that point had to happen in the film, and it allows Dakota Johnson to actually pivot from the selfish cold character to actually someone you care about. And that's so important in the film overall and for the growth of the character. Again, this writing is just spectacular. I mean, this film is not as good as Past Lives, but if it doesn't get a screenplay award, at least from the Golden Globes, there's something wrong in the universe, because this thing is so masterfully written, so wonderfully put together. The way that everything is pieced, even the capstone and introduction to cave people and what they do to kind of fall in love and to date.
Oh my God, that beginning was. We'll talk about that in the spoiler section, but that beginning, I almost was like, are we watching Sasquatch Sunset? Are we where am I in the right theater? Like, are they going to start boning by a tree? And then the last question is, what did you think about the ending? Did you think that fit?
I loved
the message of the film. Yeah,
I loved the ending. I mean, I don't want to spoil it yet. We'll get to it in spoilers, but I really did love the ending. I'm not as jaded as some when it comes to love, and people who've gone through some stuff who might be a little bit more jaded might feel, similar to how he did, that the ending kind of feels fake or fairy tale. I think he said, I watched 2 films, both of them were fantasies. He basically called the Materialists a fantasy, like How to Train Your Dragon.
Honestly, I don't know that I would call it a fantasy, but
No,
anywho,
I think it's very much steeped in reality. It's steeped in real world and modern day issues. I mean, dating today.
Yeah.
I tell my wife all the time, I do not know how I would survive if I had to date in the shit show that is dating in 2025. I see friends who are going through it, and I could not even imagine what it's like. So, kudos to those.
I don't know. This is terrible, but as we're talking about this, and I'm thinking about like what happened if Scooter and I got divorced or something, or I found myself suddenly single or whatever. Like, I feel like I'd rather set my arm on fire than if we enter the dating.
I'm not going to enter the dating world. I'm going to won't be one of those dudes that 100% relies on their kids. If knock on wood, something happened and my wife passed or we split up, I would just 100% be committed to my kids and try to reconnect with my friends and use my spare time to fly out east and hang with you and other folks. I would just be 100% on me.
I think that the chapter of my autobiography, if that ever happened to be, would be the 50-year-old slut. Is what it would be. Anyway, okay, so my spoiler-free thoughts on Materialists. I don't know why I keep wanting to add the to it the same way you want to say Celine Dion song. Dion song. Anyhow, okay. So what I love about Celine's song is that you could very easily, as her second work, look at this film and you could say, we have seen this story before. We have seen the woman whose profession deals directly with love and relationships, and that she has all the answers, but of course, collectively in her own personal life, she's a goddamn mess. But much like the fact that Past Lives was about revisiting the choices you make in life, and that character meeting somebody that they had a relationship with or should have maybe connected, and seeing what that is like and reintegrating. Again, a story that we've seen before. I love that this still feels fresh and new and urgent. I would say this isn't a fantasy. I would say that this is more like an allegory that Celine Song uses to examine love in the modern day. And so I think that is what makes this film so strong, is because, There's a line in this film where somebody says something like, love is the last ideology, right? And if you think about what it means for an ideology, an ideology is like these sort of like set tenets, but you can't do that with love. And what's so great about this movie is again, you could easily say, oh, well, this is all about how money can't buy you love, but it's deeper than that. To be sure, there are people out there, and maybe even youngins nowadays, who are just sort of like, I'll hitch my wheel to a rich person, right? Or there are people like the characters in this film. My biological clock is ticking. I'm in my 30s. I need to make it happen, but I also want to secure my future. So maybe I'll find somebody who makes more money than me, who is more successful or whatever. So to be sure, there is stuff out there. If that is how you want to approach things, the movie isn't judging you for that, right? Yeah. But I think what's key about the screenplay is that it points out the sort of commoditization of love and this feeling that love is almost like a one size fits all sort of thing, that if you check enough of the right boxes, then that guarantees you love, that guarantees you a relationship that will hold through individual changes, because we're human beings and we're unpredictable. And listen, even if you marry somebody who's rich, we've learned after the pandemic, people lose their jobs. People walk away from their jobs. And what's left if you only marry for that thing? And, what we're seeing her as a matchmaker do is she's going on these interviews and she's writing down the features, whatever, and then she's trying to match people up that way. That's what we do with Tinder. That's what we do with online dating. That's what we do in a very quick decision when we meet people at a bar or we meet people at a social outing, right? What I also love about this screenplay is that it talks about the risks. You and I talk about setting ourselves on fire and re-entering the dating world and how scary that would be because of that risk of rejection, that risk of, am I going to run up against somebody who has bad intentions or criminal intentions or is going to take advantage of me? And so the thing about what I love about the screenplay and Celine Song as a filmmaker and an artist is that there's so many layers to the things that we are seeing here, but it's not in kind of a judgmental way. There's a little bit of a mixed signal, by the way, with the film, because Dakota Johnson's character says, what you're really looking for when you try to date is somebody that you can grow old with, which she called a grave buddy. You're looking for somebody that you can grow old with and you can, die with, right? But because humans are so unpredictable and we change, that's not always possible. And so there's a little bit of a mixed message with her character when she says that. But ultimately, the box that I think all of us really need to check when it comes to love and relationships is that inner box. Maybe it's unchecking the inner box of, why would anybody want me? I'm terrible. Look at what I have to offer. It's no great shakes. And that's where relationships really need to start. You have to uncheck that low self-image, that hatred, that I'm not a catch, right? Yeah. Because there's other people out there who maybe they feel that, but they're faking it until they make it. And that's what you kind of need to do. But deep inside, I think we are the barrier to opening ourselves up to like a love relationship. And that was I think that's the biggest signal that I got from this movie. And you can take that how you want. Like that either means you look past money or you think about the strong connections that you have with somebody and the true love. But ultimately, again, it starts with yourself and what risk you're willing to take. There are some really painful and emotional scenes in this film that are just so honest and heartbreaking and straight from like the soul and the heart that I was just like, I don't know what I would do if somebody told me that. Like, where do you go from there? But that's the kind of openness I think that we need now, rather than looking at stature, rather than looking at, what we can do to ourselves to make us look more attractive. I mean, everybody's got the peacock show, right? There is a little bit of a, you have to dress up and then you have to show the real person. But these are all real issues we deal with. And this movie and Celine's song are so strong that I don't know. I wish her much success. I cannot wait for future Celine song projects. I'm going to check out her plays. Yeah, it's super strong watch. I'm probably foaming at the mouth over this, but Pascal is amazing. He's so good.
Okay.
Chris Evans is just, he's, by the way, I think there's a hairpiece. But whatever's happening with the hairpiece, it's looking good. It's really looking good. But I swear in every scene I was like looking at the hairline, I was like, is it, do I see, is it a toupee? I don't know. Anyway, but they're all so great in this. And I will tell you, I had a preconceived notion going into this of who I wanted Dakota Johnson to end up with. And it's not what happened. And so, yeah, it's a great movie. Everybody, please see it. That was Love in Modern Times 101. Thank you for coming to my Cupcake TED Talk. It's a watch for you.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's a
let's do
total
it.
watch.
Okay, so if you have not seen Materialists, we are going to spoil it quicker than you can say. Madam Web deserves a second look. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's talk about that ending. Do you want to set it up for the listeners? What happens at the end?
Yeah. So basically, throughout the film, Dakota Johnson's ex is Captain America. She starts dating the Mandalorian. This is gonna
Yes, it's true. That's right.
And she they mention things like what people do to invest in themselves. And then there's a scene where she talks about how she's invested in herself and her nose, and she's gotten her nose done and her boobs done. And she's touching these scars on his legs. And then all of a sudden, boom, they talk about the surgery where men, because if you're not 6 foot tall and you are as close to 5'5", then that is like the death knell for men. That's why you see the Joey Swolls, the 5'5", 5'6" guys that go to the gym and get themselves as big as possible.
The short kings. We call them the short kings.
Short
folks.
kings, yes. And so instead of being a short king, he decided to do a risky surgery and break his legs and regrew 6 extra inches. And so in this conversation about it, she realizes that, she's in this for all the wrong reasons. She's not in this for love. She's in this for money. She's in this for that, what we see going on with Belichick and what we've seen maybe with Alec Baldwin's wives. These women who get with somebody because I can fall in love with anybody. That's the easy part. What's hard is finding a partner. And then we get these flashback scenes to her and her ex fighting about money, not having the money to go on this anniversary date, and she breaks up with him at that point. So what ends up happening at the end is we have to go back and set it up to the instance that changes everything in the film, where she puts 2 people together. She puts this woman who's been having a hard time finding her match, successful lawyer in her late 30s, who just can't find the right guy. She's kind of in the wrong age group. She ends up setting him up with someone who she wasn't really his type. And we only see this guy once, tall, elegant looking. And she, of course, when you're looking at looks and elegance in New York, you think this guy's the whole catch. Well, we find out that he sexually assaults her in the bathroom. Which leads to her being called a pimp. And that's the linchpin in the movie where she changes. Dakota Johnson goes from, God, we need to act, this should be about love. Like, this is what happens when you match people together based off of superficial things. And that leads us back to her and her ex coming back together. And it ends with them getting back together and maybe even getting engaged, I think, is what the little flower ring went to show us at the end.
Yes.
So she chose love over money. And that's why John thought it was very much a piece of fiction.
Yeah. When this incident happens, what she ends up realizing a bunch of things about that agency is that it had happened before. Right.
Yeah.
And Marin Ireland is her supervisor. And she's kind of like, oh, yeah, we have a legal team. This happens all the time. We're talking about human beings. And that's something that Dakota Johnson had not really factored into it. And so there's a really telling scene in the beginning of the film where her and another worker are talking, and they're talking about people that they have essentially commoditized. They don't say their last name. They say like Jane P and Stephen L.
Yes.
But then they're talking about like their statistics, like it's a fucking fantasy football draft or it's like the stock market. And Dakota Johnson realizes that she threw that guy who sexually assaults the lady, she threw them together because she was like, well, what have I got to lose? You know, none of the dates have worked. Let's just do this or whatever. And it turns out he's the guy that sexually assaults her because she wasn't thinking enough about that. And then, you know, I love the scene where she's having that discussion with the supervisor and she's literally like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? We're setting people up for that kind of scary risk. And then suddenly all these people barge into the office and they're like, number 5 in my caseload, they're getting engaged or whatever. And you know, she leaves like in a huff. And I love that scene because it just was like, it's all out there. You don't have to think about it. It's all being presented to you. And I think that's the other strength of Celine's song is that, you know, yes, there are issues that you can kind of think about, but her narrative is so strong that it's all there. Like those scenes and those discussions tell you everything. That scene where she says to him, when they're fighting about the anniversary, and she's like, you know, what did she say? She said something like, I hate it because you don't have the money for our stuff. And I hate it because that makes me think about me growing up poor and how my parents didn't have money. And then that makes me hate myself because I feel like a bitch for thinking that or whatever. Like those things are real. Some people don't vocalize that, but it's stuff that feels visceral. But there are other conversations like that where like everything is laid bare so openly that it feels very uncomfortable. And like I said, like I wanted to vomit. So for example, there's the bride that doesn't want to get married. And she goes up to her and she's like, okay, why do you want this marriage in the deepest, darkest corners of your mind? And the woman sits up and she says, you know, after the whole, like, don't tell anybody, she says, I want to marry him because my sister's jealous of him. And he makes more money than my sister's husband. And he's better looking than my sister's husband. And it's kind of like, what?
And she turns into, it's value then.
It's about value. Right. Exactly. And so, and that's the message behind the movie is that, you can get married for value, but where is it going to get you? It's going to make you feel empty. Like what is really love? What does it mean when you love somebody? Is it the connections? Is it the connections with everything else? Right. And so I love that her screenplay turns it on the men in terms of the men going through plastic surgery or something to elevate themselves, because, you know, these things are actually happening. Listeners, listeners and viewers, whether you know this or not, men have had chest implants, butt implants, calf implants, folks, calf fucking implants, like, and they are painful is what I've heard. But you know, this surgery, they're basically breaking their legs so that they can get 6 inches taller. You know, Pedro Pascal's character says, now that I'm taller, women approach me more. Women talk to me more. And then he does that thing that is so, it's laughable and it's heartbreaking at the same time, where he shrinks in height and sort of looks at her, and he's, you know, and it's sort of like this whole, like, would you have talked to me if I was that tall? And I was like, oh my God, I want to die, because, you know, our society is so superficial. And, you know, I mean, that's the conundrum of dating. And that's why the prospect of you and I being single after being married for so long, just tears us up inside, is because of that risk and that attitude. It's such a provocative film. I think, you know, anybody human is going to get something really great out of this. And by the way, you could tell she was always going to go back to Chris Evans. Like, I thought she was going to end up with Pedro Pascal, and that she was going to have a miserable life, and that, like, you know, it was going to be the original Pretty Woman ending, which was, you know, they break up and then 10 years later they see each other and they're both miserable, you know? But she ends up with Chris Evans. The reason why I knew that is because they're at the wedding. He's a waiter at the catering thing, right? And then what Pedro Pascal says something like, "What do you want to drink?" or whatever. And she says, "A Coke and a beer." Boom. And then he's standing there and he puts those down because he sees her, he anticipates, he knows her, you know. That conversation that they had after they crashed that person's wedding, where they're just like, "What are we doing? You know, this is why we broke up." Oh my God. I wanted to throw up because I was like, you guys are so perfect for each other, just, you know, whatever. But that again is that pivotal scene where she's like, "You don't want to be with me because I'm terrible." And, you know, it's weird because the audience is like, you know what? You are fucking terrible because of your matchmaking job, you know, and all the things that you've done. Like, you're a whore. Like, this man deserves better.
Or a pimp, as she's called.
Yeah, or a pimp, right? But again, it really is all of that, you know, meeting somebody emotionally halfway and getting past the whole, like, this is why I'm terrible. Like, relationships should really be more about, like, this is why it works for us. And this is, you know, these are the qualities that I love in you. And this is why I think it will work. And those qualities should be things like, we can converse, we have the same tastes, you know, we can joke with each other, we can reveal things to each other. So again, it's telling that when this incident happens at work, Chris Evans is the first person that she calls. And then she dive bombs it by being like, he's like, "Do you want me to come over and we can talk?" And she's like, "No, I'm going to Harry's." Like, hello. So like, those are the crucial things in a relationship, not how much you make, not arguably that apartment. I was like in New York, like crazy. And you know what? I was assiduously waiting to see her apartment because when she was like, "I make $80,000 and I'm a matchmaker," I was like, okay, let's see that fucking apartment because, you know, and sure enough, you only see the outside and you only see one room. So we're kind of assuming that it's like a studio plus. And I was like, okay, I can believe this or whatever. But man,
believable. I felt like this film is very believable. And so when
totally,
you know, buddy John said this was a little piece of fiction, I was like, I feel the opposite. I feel this film is very, very much based in reality and the things that the battle that we have versus the materialistic side and the love side. You know, everything is about, for me, I'm about experiences. I want to experience life because that's where I feel love. That's where I feel energy. That's where I feel one with the world. That's why I talk a lot about going to live shows, going to concerts, going to plays, getting out in the world, because I feel that energy. When all we're doing is buying things and sitting in our own home on top of our stuff, I think of Scrooge McDuck swimming in his empty pool of gold coins and how pointless that is. So it's like dealing with this battle we all have. It's nice to see a film that chooses love and shows the difficulty of choosing love. And bravo for doing that. I mean, she could have easily taken that. And it seemed like she was going to take that choice to go with Pedro. But then when things changed and she realized at that point that it's no longer about money, it's about love. That's when everything changed for her. And the film just is so perfectly puts it all together in the end, I felt like. Of course, we don't really... I mean, they hint to that he's dating. I guess Pedro Pascal's now... with Adore and is dating people. So I guessing he's going to find the person that's right for him because he was raised rich. And I loved his character. Like, usually we get these raised rich folks that are just jerks, that are assholes, that are creeps. And he's not.
There was nothing horrible about him.
Nothing horrible about him.
Yeah.
He's a catch. He's a unicorn.
That's what I meant by the film isn't necessarily judgmental with any of the characters. It really just sort of presents them in the context of this, you know, how hard it is to date, you know? And so at the end of the movie, we find out that, you know, Chris Evans is still working to be an actor. He's still buying dinner off the food carts. He meets her in a Central Park. She's on the phone call with Marin Ireland, who has been elevated to run I don't know, Adore Morocco or some shit like that. And she's going to get a promotion to supervise Adore New York. And Dakota Johnson's kind of like, well, you know what? I typed out a resignation letter and I was about to send it to you or whatever. And we don't know if she takes the job or not. And it sort of leaves us with, him putting the flower ring on her. And then we see them at the end of the film basically getting married in court in New York. And so there's that whole cattle call in the hallway and they run up and they're getting married or whatever. So remind me to go back to the beginning of the film because we didn't discuss that. But what I love about that ending sequence where you see them getting married is you see all the other couples getting married. And this dovetails with the wedding that they crashed, which I'd love to talk to her about how she crafted that wedding scene because it really touched my heart, that whole wedding scene, because we've got an interracial couple who's getting married. It looked like what do I want to say?
Country
it looked like the pastor was non-binary. They go into the reception, which is in a barn, and it's got all these little stars. But as they're dancing, you can see that there are same-sex couples, there are interracial couples, there are non-binary couples. The singer is a woman, but she's got like this mannish voice a la Nina Simone. And it's just this sort of like quiet, silent celebration of the diversity of love and how it, all its different incarnations. And I just was like swooning over that. And so you get that at the end too. If you look, you'll see different couples getting married and then you'll see their family, and their family looks diverse because there's like a Caucasian family member, but then there's like a black child that's with them or whatever. And I just absolutely loved that, how she did that in the movie. But so let's talk about the beginning and why it was so confusing. Do you want to set it up for our listeners when the movie starts?
Yeah. So basically we are given we're shown a cave couple. we're basically shown a caveman and a cave woman, and he shows up with a bushel of flowers, and similarly to what we see happen, turns one of the flowers into a ring, and they get married. And then in the end, we go back to that couple before we see the whole wedding sequence where we see the cave people in love and just holding each other. And it's just sweet, tender love that they have. And in the end, that's really what it's all about. Yes, we have to come up with the pomp and circumstance. We have to have some kind of dowry. We feel like we have to do all this stuff, come in with flowers. But in the end, marriage is a tradition about love. It should be about two people coming together to want to spend life together forever, growing old and being in love. And I love that about it. It's just a sweet, sweet film. I love the heck out of this movie. And I'm getting emotional thinking about it. It's so good.
And I mean, obviously the title is telling Materialists, but in that beginning, I mean, clearly they're like caveman Cro-Magnon. They've got the unibrow, they're dressed in furs or whatever. But we see that meeting where the woman comes out from the cave where her family is, and she sits with him and she's looking at the flowers and they're kind of giving each other goo eyes. And I think there's a bag or something, and she opens it, and she comes out with food or something. And then he comes in and he's got a bag, and then she opens it and there's like these little tools or whatever. There aren't many of them, but there's like 3 or 4. She looks at 1 or 2 of them and then she smiles, and then they just like start kissing or whatever. And so obviously we flash after the whole movie, we flash back to them, and it's sort of like love and marriage was so much simpler back then. It was like, we liked each other, we have a sexual attraction, I can offer you food and meals, and he's like, I can hunt, here are my tools, and that was it. Right? And now we're in the age of, I make, this is my salary, and this is where I live, and this is the job that I have. And so we became materialists, and that ended up clouding our vision of the simplicity of love and finding a partner. And so I guess the message is that the search should be simpler and that we can't check boxes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had to do
it's
the
such a
same thing in my
provocative
own
film.
life.
Yeah.
I mean, me
Yeah.
personally, when I met my wife, I mean, I had one kid or less on my list. She had three. I had no tattoos on my list. She was covered in them. And I got to this point in my life where I was sick of being single and I started dating outside of my rules and I met a few interesting people. And then I met Katie, she had a not even 6-month-old baby and just got divorced and was totally not with following any of my like lists as they talk about
Yeah.
the make it or break it lists. She was breaking pretty much everything on my list. But what happened is we were able to get past that and we fell in love and we
You
created
took
this
a risk.
family out of love because I took a risk.
Yeah.
I
You looked at the
dated a girl
value.
with 3 kids and tattoos and at the time she was a vegetarian and everything totally different for me, but it ended up working and now we're celebrating our 15th anniversary and I
Yay.
get the opportunity to review this film with you. It's just I feel all the butterflies. So it's
Yeah.
wonderful. Just wonderful when we can marry for love. And I know that there's those people out there who are jaded who have not found that. And I know that the search is hard, but just keep looking. I mean, just like this
Yeah.
film, sometimes you got to look back at yourself. You got to find that moment when you need to make the changes. And she did make those changes. And I think that ending, she's going to take that job because she knows that, because she basically said, you can ask for as much money as you want. This allows her the ability to know that she can make the money and he can live his dream. And that's what she just cares about him and wants that. So I felt that that was almost like even more so telling when he puts that little fake ring, takes the flower and puts it as a ring on her finger, that she was definitely going to marry him and she was definitely going to take that job. Because
See,
all that stress.
I felt like she's not taking the job. She's not. And she's just going to start over and they're going to be equals in the relationship. That's how I took that ending. But but that's what I love about this film is it is very provocative. And I'll just say one more thing and then we'll move on to our pluses. But
Pluses.
I have a friend, hopefully he's not listening to this, but I have a friend who was exactly like the one character that shows up. There's a woman that shows up in the film where there's sort of like the montage of people. And this is where she gets jaded and she's like, no, you can't do this or whatever. But there's the woman who shows up and she's like, I know I put all these unrealistic standards or whatever for my partner, but I deserve it or whatever. And I had a friend of mine who was like that, who would just bounce perfectly great men because there was a list of 20 things and maybe he didn't fit 3 of them. And so I don't know, I think that friend is still single, so it is what it is.
Those lists you got to
Man, yeah. But also I will just say this, folks, you can't be like me and just basically when I was dating, the standards were basically, are you over 18 and a male? Anyway, all right. So yeah, Super Watch. I cannot wait for more Celine song. She is so great. Love her.
Amazing.
Super Watch for you too.
She's Super Watch. She's a talent for all of us to just keep our eyes on. I am so excited to see what she does next. And
yeah,
she's 2 for 2. Both these films are great. Now this isn't as good as Past Lives, but I still think
I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Past Lives
are better.
Past Lives is really strong. I think this is a stronger script with all of the issues that it brings up. It's very, very well done. Also, one last question. Is this going to change anybody's mind about Dakota Johnson's acting?
It kind of did me. It kind of made me want. I haven't seen the Tig Notaro movie, and I watched the trailer for it right after, and I'm like, okay. Me and my wife both like, okay, that's going on the list. We're watching that as soon as we get back from Miami. So it's like I'm kind of wanting to get out there and see her again. And it brought me back to seeing Cha Cha Real Smooth, thinking she's not that bad, And yeah, I think that it can. I think that it can because she's playing a character, a very blunt New York character, and she does it really well. And yes, it might be similar to who she is, but like you said, she's blunt about everything. I make $80,000. This is what I do. This is who I am. And then when he's like, well, what are you looking for? I'm looking for money. I'm looking. I
Yeah.
want to be with someone who's rich because I've dated for love, and she doesn't want to do. She didn't want to do that anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah,
just a wonderful film.
this movie really fit her acting style to a
It did.
T. It works.
Yeah.
It really worked. And you say Celine Song saw that. And that's the other brilliance about Celine is that the leads in past lives and the leads here, like she picks really great actors that can convey her story and her thematic points. Really, really great stuff.
This was actually kind of a hit
Oh,
this week. 12. It was
Oh, was
supposed to
it?
only make 7 to 8, made 12 million bucks.
Oh,
So
great.
surprisingly, what beyond what they expected. So 12
Specialty
million, I think
box
is-
office, baby.
That's a pretty decent amount for this movie coming against big. We still got Mission Impossible, Lilo and Stitch, and now How to Train Your Dragon. So
Do we know what the budget was?
I haven't seen what the budget is. I'd be
Hold on,
interested.
let me-
I wouldn't
let me
imagine
Google.
it'd be more than. I mean, who knows? Because the actors.
It feels like I think like a 15 million.
It feels like a
maybe?
20. Yeah, I was about to say 20 million, depending on what the actors made, is what it felt like to me.
Also, if somebody says the city is the fourth character, I will kill you. But the New York locations are beautiful, though. Like it's so definitively New York. I was like,
It felt
oh
New
man,
York.
this is
You could
amazing.
tell. You could tell it wasn't Canada or.
Yes,
someplace in
exactly.
Romania.
But again, seriously, if I read a review, if you write the city is the fourth character, I will throttle you. Okay, so apparently 20 million. We were close.
We were right, yeah.
Reported budget is $20 million. So but yeah, anyway.
So you want me to start with my plus?
Yeah, let's go for it. You
Okay, well,
start.
I'm gonna
Go for
do
it.
another. I'm gonna do another live show review. So
Oh, nice.
this past week, my wife and I were able to go see one of my favorite bands from 20 years ago, a British dance rock band called Bloc Party. They hit the scene back in 2005. If you were into indie music like I was, so indie music was such a huge part of my 20s. Silent Alarm, their first album, was just epic. It had so many hits from Banquet to Helicopter, like Eating Glass. It's just a wonderful album. The lead singer is just, I mean, handsome as hell. He's really, it sounds and looks kind of like Idris Elba meets 2 Chainz, and my wife wasn't really a fan of the music. She went for me to support me, getting to see one of my favorite bands. And what I was hoping, what was listed as a Silent Alarm show, even though I'll go into the details of that. They didn't actually play Silent Alarm. The album or the tour was listed as a Metric and Bloc Party co-headlining tour. If you know Metric, they're a art pop dance rock group also from got popular in the 2000s as well. And it would have been an awesome tour. And unfortunately, due to circumstances and egos, they ended up breaking apart, and they didn't go through the way it was supposed to, and then they ended up becoming a greatest hits and Silent Alarm tour, and they ended up getting a shoegaze band called Blonde Redhead to open up for them, which I wasn't as familiar with. I had one album of theirs from about 18 years ago, which was good, but it's very much a shoegaze album, and they were fine for those who like shoegaze. I know Jeremy Kinney, probably a huge fan of them. They were fine live, and I did like them, but once Bloc Party hit the stage, man, they have such presence. Their lead singer is absolutely just blows you away with his voice, his look, and just the music itself is visceral. Now, I was hoping for, like I had seen in the past with the Ryan Adams show, where they played the album that he was touring with in full as kind of a reunion, but they didn't do that. They only played 8 or 9 songs from Silent Alarm, kind of mixed in with some of the other hits. And those who know the band know that their strongest moments were their first 3 albums. And they did do quite a bit from those first 3 albums, but they also did a lot from their later albums, which I didn't love as much. And the set list, they play a different set list every week or every night. And they played 4 slow songs right in a row. If you're playing a live tour, I know it seems like you just want to hit a vibe, but 4 slow songs in a row when you're kind of this poppy dance rock group, just
Yeah, you gotta
kills
mix
them.
that shit up.
You gotta mix that up. So there was a moment where it just we got this like bottleneck of slow songs, and they were all
Maybe
great
that was-
songs. They just should have been split up a little.
Maybe that was the smoke the blunt moment, and then they turned it up.
Definitely, it felt like. But I mean, the show was nothing but, for the most part, 35 to 55 to 60-year-olds, and some of them with their kids. Again, it was a larger venue, fit about 3 or 3,500. I'd say it was probably 75% full. But it was only the second time this band has ever been to Utah, outside of their first tour in 2005. So I was really glad I finally got the opportunity to see Bloc Party. Even though the set list wasn't exactly what I wanted, they were amazing live, played a great hour-and-a-half set. And I love these shows that start at, doors at 6, start at 7, or done by 10:30. My age, that's perfect. I mean, back
You're
in the
an
20s,
old man. You're
I'm an old man. I love them.
Oh, it's like I love concerts that start at 6 and end at 10.
Yes, I do.
That's amazing.
This has been a great year for nostalgia for me, seeing all these.
Yeah.
05 was the big year. That was the year I got divorced. That was the year that I kind of started reliving my youth in my 20s, because I really didn't live a youth. I served an LDS mission, and I went right to getting married and then becoming a dad, so quick, so fast. So then I had this divorce in 05, and music became so important. And now all these albums that were so huge for me, and these artists, they're all coming on tour again, and I get to see Bright Eyes again, which of course you're going to be getting a review on that comes in September. But anyways, Bloc Party, go see them if you get a chance to see them live.
Yeah.
They are currently touring across America and throughout the world for this album, so definitely go see them. The nice thing is they aren't playing the same set list. Bloc Party plays different sets every single night, so that was really exciting and kind of fun, because you didn't know what you were going to get. I kind of wish I would have got something different in the gumbo, but in the end, I'm really glad I got to see the band. So great show.
For those of you interested, it's actually Bloc, BLOC Party. Our lead singer is Keely Okereke. He is definitely very good looking. We've got Russell Lissick, Louis Weeze Bartle, and Harry Deacon. We are counting 6 albums, starting with Silent Alarm, 2005. 2007's A Weekend in the City, 2008's Intimacy, 2012's 4, 2016's Hymns, and then the recent Alpha Games in 2022. So check them out. They're from London, I suppose. Yeah. Yep. They're from London. So awesome. Very nice. Okay. So my plus is I'm going to plus a TV show that I'm digging into that I dig. Ooh. That was weird. And then a movie that I saw that got a lot of hate on the internet, and I watched it, and I actually had a fucking blast with it. Or as you would say, I had fun with it, right? This is great. So the show that I'm talking about is it's currently on Amazon Prime. It's called Overcompensating. This is created and written by and starring a gentleman named Benito Skinner, very good-looking actor. I don't really recognize him from other stuff, but if IMDb says you were in Curb Your Enthusiasm and Search Party, I'm going to trust that you were, because I don't remember him. I do know that he was in 4 episodes of the reboot of Queer as Folk, which kind of went nowhere. But Overcompensating, the logline goes, follows Benny, a football player, as he struggles to accept his sexuality in college, finding himself overcompensating as he tries to appear as something he's not. And so he stars in this, and then the other co-lead is a very adorable woman named Wally Barham. She is a writer, actually, known for What We Do in the Shadows. So she wrote 10 episodes, but she's also acted in things like Shrinking, a series called Sprung. And so she's also acting in this. I imagine she's also helping to write it as well. But other people you may know, Adam DeMarco from The White Lotus is in this. Rish Shah shows up in this. He is an actor from London. He was in Ms. Marvel, The Long Goodbye, Do Revenge. So up-and-comers are in this. There's also Lucas Gage shows up in this as well in a very brief scene in the pilot and the second episode. Let me just say this, though. Lucas Gage, I know that you're openly gay and this is wonderful, but I'm really tired of seeing you in shows where you are the ideal gay man. Like, just folks, Hollywood execs, find another gay man. Okay. Lucas Gage is not the only gay man. All right. But anyway, you know, you know who else is in this that people would know is the mom is Connie Britton from
Kyle MacLachlan too.
And Kyle MacLachlan. They play his parents or whatever. But it's very, very funny. A little bit is a little cartoonish and over the top. There is a Carmen's roommate is like this slutty, like college girl that is a total caricature, but is hysterical. Like she says something like, "Oh, are you Latinx?" As in Latinx, are you Latinx? Anyway.
Oh my God.
That character is hysterical. She's like, "Yeah, you need first night fuck, or whatever." Anyway, it's very ribald, very adult. He ends up, so his character definitely has been overcompensating. He's like, you know, football jock. He's like valedictorian. He's doing all of these things. He's clearly dealing with the fact that like he's gay. He wants college to be this new experience. Oh my God, it's hysterical. It's very funny. Please check it out. 8 episodes. The episodes are short. They're like 38 minutes, 35 minutes. So definitely dive in. It's great. Okay. The other plus is I checked out a film called Cleaner, not The Cleaner, like The Materialists. It's called Cleaner. And this stars Daisy Ridley. And it is directed by one Martin Campbell, who I absolutely love. He's a New Zealand director. He's directed, you know, Bond films, Casino Royale, The Mask of Zorro, The Legend of Zorro. He's a great director. And this one is finally on streaming. And the logline goes, criminal activists hijacked a gala taking 300 hostages. One extremist plans mass murder as a message to the world. An ex-soldier turned window cleaner now works to rescue the hostages. We should also mention she is saddled with an autistic hacker brother who just happens to lose his placement and is with her when all this goes down as she's cleaning the windows. Okay, so obviously you can see Mike's reaction, and I will admit that log line just screams stinker all over it. But I watched it. It's basically Die Hard with a Mary Sue, the Mary Sue, folks, from the Star Wars Jedi trilogy, the new trilogy. I loved this. I don't know. I bought into it. I saw all the screenplay's flaws, which was, you know, he's autistic. He hacked into something. I turned to Scooter and I was like, I hope you remember this later because it will certainly come into play. She's a window cleaner, and then it comes out that she's ex-military and that she has all of this training. I was like, of course she does. Of course she has all of this training. But you know what? If you go with it, I had a great time. There's also an actor his name is Taz Schuyler. He's British and Arab. He changed his name to Taz Schuyler from Taz Yassin. I don't know why he did that, except to say that I know that there are Hispanic actors with Hispanic sounding names who have changed their names to like Smith or something like that so that they can get jobs. But this particular actor also plays, I think, Senji in the live action One Piece. He's gorgeous. He's really great and menacing in this. Clive Owen is in this. There's a psycho executive decision moment. I won't go into this. But as contrived and ridiculous as this is, I really enjoyed it. And Daisy Ridley was great. She's got that Keira Knightley. When I talk, my lips don't touch. They don't. It does like this. I know. And there's some great action scenes when she turns it on. I really bought into this window cleaner saving people in this Die Hard scenario. It's also very topical. It's environmentalism mixed with a whole like anti-humanist kind of thing. Yes, that exists, folks. But for an hour and 40 minutes, I fucking loved it. Martin Campbell, I love you. This is very much like The Protege, right? With Maggie Q. Now, granted, you had Maggie Q and the action in that film is not like the action in this film, but I'm here for it, Martin Campbell. I love you. Thank you. And Daisy Ridley, thank you. I truly believe that as a cleaner and ex-army person that you can save here.
Well, we were supposed to review this one. I actually saw this because we were going to review it, and then we pivoted to it.
I forget what we pivoted to. And I remember you saying that it was absolute trash and that you were glad that we didn't. What?
It's like ballerina style hatred for me. I hated that thing.
Hey, let me tell you something.
Hairpiece she had on the whole time. I wanted to pull it off. I hated that wig. God, that was god awful.
Let me just say,
sliding around the whole time.
first of all, that opening when she's like, the girl is, let me tell you something. If I was climbing on my shelves in my childhood home like that shit would be falling off the walls. My parents would be like, what the fuck are you doing? They would throw me out the window. But yeah, it's so contrived, but I loved it. I really did. You know what? If Ballerina was like this film, I might have actually enjoyed it.
I liked it more than Ballerina. I'll say that. It's more endearing than Ballerina.
Yes.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm going to watch this again, folks. I fucking loved it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's totally
really
your kind
dug
of movie.
I will say I also turned on Madam Web when I came home from the Materials. So there you go. Anywho, what are we doing next week? Oh yeah,
we have a special guest, and we're going
28 years later.
Wow.
Yeah, starring the ubiquitous. Wait, is Pedro Pascal? If Pedro Pascal is in this, I will die. No,
I don't know.
It's starring the ubiquitous Aaron Taylor Johnson, who also appears in practically everything as well. No, Pedro. I don't think Pedro's in this.
Right?
Oh yeah. I think so. By the way, I watched The Return and I saw Ralph Fiennes' Spear, and it was everything. It was cracked up to me. It's great. Anywho, The Return, that's a good movie too. That's streaming too. I would check that out. I liked it. Okay, if you love us, you will certainly love our Podfathers, The Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema, and Not a Bomb. So Not a Bomb recently did a film called Bloodshot, which was a comic book adaptation with Vin Diesel, directed by Jeff Wadlow, who I have a serious crush on. And even though his movies are kind of not that great, I adore them. So I'm looking at Truth or Dare, Imaginary, Fantasy Island, Kick-Ass 2. Yes, these are Jeff Wadlow films. Folks, Never Back Down. Love these fucking movies, love them. But they did Bloodshot recently. I was kind of hoping to guest on that because I kind of like Bloodshot, the movie. Of course I did. Anywho, you also love Night of the Living podcast, Wild Dream podcast, Death by DVD, Raiders of the podcast, Backlook Cinema podcast with Zoe, our YouTube brother, John Horgan. John Horgan, we adore you. We know you didn't like Materialists, but yeah, we love you. Caliber 9 from outer space, wink, wink. Feminine Critique, and then Talk Without Rhythm with Goro. Parting thoughts, Mike, before you jet style off to your anniversary.
Like I always say, get out there with live exhibition, go see music live, go to the theater, go to see film, get yourself out there, enjoy the summer, and yes, find love and marry for love, not money.
Exactly. And also, please save physical media. In fact, you can start by purchasing the Blu-ray of Cleaner, directed by Martin Campbell. And as always, folks, be kind, be open, be vulnerable. That's where the art is. And Dakota Johnson and Chris Evans know this if you see Materialists. So, all right. That was good. That was good. Nice. Oh my God. I fucking love The Cleaner. It was so good.
The Cleaner. No, I love good.
I'm ordering my Blu-ray. I really dug it that much.